Hey everyone, good morning. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In Show, where the Teach Better team is live every single morning, Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. Eastern. We are currently streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. So thank you to those of you who are just popping in, getting started for your morning, or if you are listening over on Teach Better Talk podcast after the fact. We are thrilled that you are here, and we are thrilled that you are choosing to listen and spend some of your day with us. We have a brand new theme this week that we're going to continue to dive into. I have the one and only Vernon Wright with me, which is going to just be an outstanding conversation. And we also will be diving into some recommendations because it's Wednesday. So we will be right back. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Vernon, can you believe it's already Wednesday?
It's Wednesday, midweek. That means that half of the week is behind us, just a little bit more of the week ahead. And so I just want to say that as we're at midweek, it always gives us an opportunity to kind of reflect and to ask ourselves, hey, how's the week been so far? And what's the week ahead that's in front of us?
And what an intentional thing to do bright and early on a Wednesday morning is do some reflection on the Monday, Tuesday, the start of our day thus far. And then I love thinking forward. Where are you headed? Where do you want to be? Vernon, I can already tell this is going to be such a phenomenal time discussing so many different things with you. Before we get into all that, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself, what you do in education? I assume a lot of our network knows you, but we'll just pretend there's a newbie in the house.
Right. Okay. Well, the name is Vernon Wright across all social media channels @ the Right Leader, and have been in education for what is approaching now 2 decades. And, I just want to say that I am so honored, so blessed, so grateful to be on the show with you all this morning. And, one of the things that I often share is I am in different spaces and different places, and I'm sharing with folks, whether it's in small groups or large groups or anywhere in between, is that just one idea can change your life for the better. So I started out many, many, many moons ago in this very, very small town you've probably never heard of called Dallas, Texas. That is me being facetious. And started out, interestingly enough, as a high school teacher. And, of course, everything in Dallas is big. And so I remember being a job changer. I had been in the corporate world for a while and decided to jump over into education. And I remember, in that cohort, that summer cohort, us having about 230 people, and it was big. So back then in those days, you went through basically what I called a summer boot camp for all 3 months, and then you went into an actual school. And I remember several of my colleagues getting elementary school assignments. And when I got a high school assignment, I was like, what in the world is it? Who did I make mad? I didn't think I made anybody mad. Right. And you fast forward, and now it has been one of the best things that ever could have happened in my life. Started out back then, of course, in those days as a high school teacher. Was very blessed to do that. About year 2, year 3, kind of started getting this feel for this thing called education and teaching. And they got into teacher leadership, got into some other things, campus leadership. Had some great opportunities there. And then, of course, that transition into district leadership as well. And so over time, me being a speaker, that's one of the things that I do, a speaker, consultant, leader. I started out just doing professional development at the campus level. And then that led to a district thing. Somebody asked me to do it at the district level. And I was like, nah, you don't want me at the district level. And they're like, yes, we do. And so just grateful for all of the opportunities. And really, when you think about that in total, it brings us to this moment right now. And I want to say this before we go any further, whether you're watching us now live with us now here live, or whether you're watching on replay, there is no distance in time. And I want to go ahead and share this with you, that it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence that you are here with us. This is truly a date with destiny.
Vernon, I have always been a fan of the work that you have done. And when I say always, I truly mean I have been a fan. I've been a stalker of the work you've been doing for quite some time. And I knew that this morning's conversation was going to be good, but I just feel like we're beginning to skim the surface of all this. Before we get into all the discussion we're going to have today, we have a theme this week that's focused on celebration. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts on that. We typically start our morning off with some celebration of holidays. We have like a good news article that we're going to get into. So if you don't mind, we're going to transition into that. And then I cannot wait for us to not only have comments and questions in our live feed, but also get into some educational talk this morning. Does that sound good with you?
Oh, absolutely. And again, I just want to say this before we go any further. What an honor to be here with you all this morning. And I'm ready. Let's go.
I'm ready. Let's go. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Drop-In. We have Vernon and Rae with us, and we are getting into some celebrations, some holidays, some good news articles. Not really just trying to talk shop about what are all the different things going on in the world that you can not only be aware of that other people might be celebrating, but also you could choose to celebrate yourself. Vernon, are you a big holiday guru? Do you love a good holiday? What's your mindset? I mean, Thanksgiving's coming close. There's also some winter holidays coming up. What are your thoughts?
Absolutely a fan of the holidays. And, one of the things that I really like about it, whether the holidays or Thanksgiving, for those that celebrate Christmas, what have you, Hanukkah, and so forth and so on, but also to the spring holidays and the summer holidays as well, is that these are really, and I don't necessarily know if people have really thought about it this way, but this is kind of the way that it is, unless, we really have someone around us to say, hey, have you ever thought about it this way? Which, obviously we're in the midst of that right now. And what an honor it is to be again with you all here. Is simply this, and a great place to take notes if you haven't started already. And it is this: these built-in holidays within the calendar throughout the year give us periodic moments to stop and reflect. And I want to say this here real quick. Another pro tip that I'm going to go ahead and drop. It's early, right? But this is pro tip number 2 is this: anything that we have accomplished in life is typically, I know there may be some exceptions, but typically is the result of us having done some level of reflection.
Very true.
True.
So much good reflection.
Absolutely. And I want to say this too, pro tip number 3, for those that are taking notes at home. And this is a connection to something that you all talk about all of the time at Teach Better, all of the time, right? And that connection is this: 2 connections, really. Of course, for those of our friends out there that are curriculum and instruction gurus, my master's is not in curriculum and instruction, or CNI, as we would say in the education world. It's in leadership. But I do want to say this, which is a CNI connection. No instruction is really complete without assessment, whether that be formative or summative. But let me go ahead and say this as well. Anytime we do a quote unquote assessment, that's really an opportunity for us to reflect. So let me say this: every time that we have a holiday, that's the time that we do our own formative and summative assessments.
Well, and like we always talk about on Daily Drop-In, we not only celebrate the big holidays, the big celebrations, maybe some serious holidays, but also a few goofy holidays, Vernon. We love any day to celebrate a ridiculous holiday. And we have some today that I'd love to get your thoughts on.
Yes.
The first one is today is Guinness World Record Day. I don't know if you've ever had aspirations to go set a world record. This holiday, although a little wacky, would be really fun regardless of whatever class age your students are, to be able to talk about the world records out there. There are some crazy ones. And I will say, I grew up not as a big reader, but the day that you could go to the library in elementary school and go check out the Guinness World Record books was always a good day.
Yeah. And, one of the things I want to say about the Guinness World Records is really this. It gives us an opportunity to really see what we are able to do and capable of doing as human beings. And I don't really know that outside of that, that we really stop and ask ourselves consciously, right?
Sure.
I don't know that we really stop and ask ourselves, what am I capable of?
Mm.
What is possible? What can be done? And when we take a moment to just think about that, just to, as some people say, entertain, right? To entertain the thought of that, I dare say, that in some ways unlocks the potential and unleashes the potential within us.
So good. There are more holidays to celebrate today that you guys can all consider. In addition to, I think one of the cool ones is it's Guinness World Record Day. It's also National Educational Support Professionals Day. So make sure that you thank all the support professionals in your school today, especially, although obviously every single day to share your appreciation with people doing wonderful things to help make your lives and our students' lives better. It's always something to celebrate, but maybe bring them an extra coffee today or an extra thank you, and sharing of your appreciation would be wonderful. It's also National Hiking Day, National Homemade Bread Day. Who knew that was a holiday? Homemade bread is always delicious. Sign me up. So depending on what holiday you're celebrating today, there's a lot of good reflection moments in each and every one of those. Vernon, are you a big hiker? I don't know that I consider myself a hiker, but I'm a great walker.
Yeah. So, I've shared this on podcasts before and in person as well at different conferences that I've spoken at. But, one of the things that I did several moons ago at the urging and really a challenge of a mentor of mine, and how many of you know that the power of mentorship is astounding. And I have some mentors that are in education and some that are not in education purposely.
Yeah.
And one of my mentors, we kind of talked about some time ago that walking aspect and just being outside and connecting with nature. And that is something that I do. I'm very blessed and fortunate to not live far from a walking trail. And so that is something that I do partake in from time to time. And so it's great to just get that opportunity. And I want to go ahead and say this too, as well. I think, and this is my theory, right, that there's a part of us that is hardwired to connect with nature. I just absolutely believe that. And I know there's some people that are on here right now that may say, well, Vernon, I'm not an outside person. I like to stay inside. As my daughter says, she's so funny. She's in Girl Scouts, and she says, Dad, we don't go camping, we go glamping. And, so, cause I was still there about, when I was in the Boy Scouts, we were outside in 32-degree weather. And I mean, we were doing the whole thing, right? But, just a few minutes. And I want to say this to you real quick, just a challenge, if I may put that out there to everyone that's watching this. Again, for those that are watching us live, thank you so much. For those that are watching this or listening to this on the replay, there is no distance in time. I want to challenge you just one time this week to spend 5 minutes outside. Not 5 minutes outside with other people. I mean, that's great if you'd like to do that. But 5 minutes outside in peace and quiet with yourself. And one of the things that I do is I don't necessarily just always do that in the mornings. I sometimes do that at night. And I know that last night down here in Texas, I'm in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. We had a great full moon last night, and it was awesome.
Oh, I love that. I do have to say, I do appreciate resetting outside. It's been a little chilly, but I also have a great space to walk, especially with the dogs over here. And it does kind of like refresh your day, get your second wind, gain some clarity. I love that challenge for everybody today to try and get 5 minutes outside. And I will say, I know you said preferably on your own. I'm going to disclude puppies. You can have dogs with you. I want to create that clarification. So go on a walk with
right.
your dog or your cat if that's what you fancy, and go for it.
Well, I will tell you this, that having been out, obviously on several occasions out on the walking trail and just spending time outside, that I've seen a lot of dogs out on the trail. And as somebody who once upon a time, little fun fact that people may not necessarily know, as somebody who once upon a time had two greyhounds that used to be track dogs, I am a huge dog fan. So
so fun, so fun. Yeah, I have two accidentally. I don't know how I got stuck with these two fur balls. But they do bring quite a bit of entertainment. Before we came live, I was telling Vernon, I was like, if I could get one of my dogs, and I can't say his name because he's finally settled, but I'm like, he might jump into my lap mid-show, and who knows what's going to happen then. The other thing we like to do on the show, Vernon, is discuss a good news article. These could be great news articles that fill us up and make us feel good. They also could be good discussion starters for not only our students, but also our colleagues. As you walk in today, if you want to bring a fun fact or foster any sort of discussion, we like to give you an idea of how you can go about that. The good news article today is all about charity. So if you're looking for some inspiration for your holiday gifts, depending on what you prefer in that area, you definitely should check this out. This is the Kindness Book, and it is benefiting charity. So we're always looking for books that inspire us to feel optimistic and positive about the world that we live in. And so we are loving this new story. It's called Humankind, Changing the World One Small Act at a Time. So the author is Brad Arson, who inspired writing this book called Humankind. It's actually one word, but the K is capitalized. So I'm excited to hear the story behind that. The author's wife, Mia, was in the middle of a 2.5 years of treatment for leukemia and suggested that the whole family kind of create a project to provide a purpose, a distraction, and allow them to have something to do while they were sitting in the hospital every single week. We want to give a shout out to them. They wrote this incredible book. The cover is just so pretty. And there is a beautiful, beautiful photo of the three of them. It's the two parents kind of holding up their son. He's wearing a baseball jersey too, holding up this book, this project they did. So in Humankind, you're going to meet a character who decided to cook an extra portion of dinner every night to feed someone in need. And as the story goes on, the character in the book feeds over 500,000 meals per year to other people. It's a really, really fun story. They have a little bit of a Santa connection, and there's a lot there. So definitely go check out that book. It might be exactly the holiday gift you were looking for, maybe for not only yourself, but your classroom, and also maybe for family and friends. So shout out to their incredible family, not only as they persevere through a very, very hard time, but also find a positive spin of what they can contribute to the world during that time. Really powerful.
Absolutely. And I want to go ahead and say this too. Another pro tip here, if you're taking notes at home, is gratitude is the doorway to altitude. And so when we show gratitude, and that's really what charity is. Some people call it charity. Some people call it, at the higher levels, some people call that philanthropy. But really, I just want to go ahead and say this, that there is a part of us that is hardwired to give in whatever way that giving takes place. And so when we give, and this another pro tip, a great place to take notes. When we give, we unlock a part of ourselves that is destined to reach people on a greater level. And it is absolutely powerful. And people would think, well, Vernon, I if I give, doesn't that mean that I have less? And I just want to go ahead and share from my own life that, every time that I have given, as I have felt led to give, that it has just come back to me so many times over, and in so many ways. And I just want to say this as well, in maybe what we would call a non-tangible way, is that when you give and you're led to give to something, and really it's something that is meaningful to you, there is such a peace that comes over you when you give. And as eloquent as I would like to think that I might be, I don't think that I am sometimes or some days. I will say this, that it transcends that feeling. It transcends anything that I think we could really even try to accurately describe with words from the human language.
I love this concept of being reflective today, this concept of sharing gratitude, sharing our appreciation for others, and giving and giving and giving, not only giving to others, but also giving to ourselves to refuel and persevere this morning. We are going to get into more of this concept of giving, Vernon, because we are going to get into our theme this week, which is all about making intentional moves to celebrate before the end of the year and get a little creative. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here on Daily Drop-In. Vernon Wright is dropping mics all over the place, and we are going to get into our discussion about getting creative before the end of the month. Vernon, every single week we have a themed Daily Drop-In, and our theme is always focused around trying to get people tactical and strategic, things that they can go do to be a little bit better every single day, right? That teach better mindset, better today, better tomorrow, even if it's 1% or 0.5% or it's 10%, that concept of continuously trying to be our best selves and giving all that we can, not only for each other, but for our students, is something we also admire, lives within all of us. Vernon, when I think about getting creative, I find you to be such a creative person. And the concept of trying to challenge ourselves to be creative before the end of the month really just comes from a place of wanting to encourage everybody to maybe think out of the box for a moment in time as we continue through the rigmarole of this year thus far. What are your thoughts on creativity?
Yeah, I want to say this. First of all, you're so very gracious. Thank you so much. Very, very gracious on that. I don't necessarily think of myself as a creative person, but we'll take that. We'll go with that, right? I really want to say this. I don't necessarily know that we take the time. And there's a common theme, right? This is a recurring theme throughout this conversation. And I know that those that are listening and are watching this, whether it's live or on replay, you've probably seen this already, that there's this common theme of taking the time to really think. But, really us honoring ourselves. And I want to say this, another pro tip. I'm going to go ahead and put this out there if you're taking notes at home. Of course, if you're driving, just listen to this later on. We don't want any issues there, right? Always be safe. We always want to encourage safety, right? But if you are in a place where you can take notes, this is a great place to take notes. Another pro tip for you here, and that is this. Before I can honor others, I need to honor myself. Let me go ahead and say that again, because repetition is our friend. Before I can honor others, I need to honor myself. And a third time, because again, of course, repetition is our friend. Before I can honor others, I need to honor myself. And so one of the things that I want to go ahead and just ask as a rhetorical question, I'll just put that out there, is, have we honored ourselves this week? And is there one thing that we've been able to do that has honored ourselves? Well, Vernon, how could I do that? What could that be? And I want to throw a shout out to Glenn Robbins, great superintendent up there in New Jersey. And, I was very fortunate and blessed to have spoken at his Rewire conference a couple of years ago. And one of the things that he did that was so neat as a sign of gratitude and really giving was he gave all of us, the speakers that were the speakers there, a book called Stillness is the Key. And some of your listeners may have already read that book, but it's just a great book about just overall, and I won't be a spoiler alert here, but I will say this, really just taking time to stop and be still and to listen. And when we take the time to do that, we're honoring ourselves. And I want to make a quick connection here real quick, because I know we've got to move on to some other things as well, but a couple of things real quick. Just what an absolutely phenomenal time we're having, and what a great honor it is to be here on the show. Second thing, right? Second thing is this. And I don't think that we necessarily make the connection between what we do in our regular lives and the classroom instruction, all right? Or what happens in the space of education. But when we have particularly summative assessments, but even formative assessments, which of course we know, formative, forming, summative, summary. Those formative assessments are always happening all of the time. That's our way of honoring the curriculum. And I don't know if folks have really ever thought about it that way, that, hey, we're getting ready to have an assessment. Another test, but I don't necessarily know that even the adults have stopped to really say to themselves consciously, this is a way for us to honor whatever it is that we've studied.
Absolutely. Vernon, it's interesting. I'd like to make a connection between reflection and being creative with the opportunities that we can offer ourselves and offer others in those moments of reflection. I think when when a traditional teacher, and I'm going to put you all in boxes, so I apologize. When a traditional teacher says, is encouraged to be creative, a lot of us foolishly, but a lot of us think, okay, I'm going to add some colored paper. I'm going to do some cool fonts, and I'm going to, maybe do an activity that gets my students out of their seats. Can you
Right,
believe it? I'm going to get creative. And
right.
I think an intentional moment here of discussion could be around that you can get creative in instilling good practices with your students, like reflection, which has come up numerous times. And how can we do that? How can we share ideas on creative ways to be reflective? I know, Vernon, you continue to emphasize the value, the gift that we have to pause and evaluate not only ourselves, but what's going on around us. Have you found any creative ways to maybe support yourself in doing that better or support others in doing that better?
Yeah, so I want to throw this out there, and what a great opportunity and lead in there, and thank you so much for that. And I do this high tech and low tech, right? By my bed, if you were all to come to my house and you would see kind of the setup by my bed, I have a stack of post-it notes and a pen, and I always have that readily available so that when ideas come to me, I'm able to go ahead and jot that down. Also, too, obviously, as well, I have, of course, my electronic devices as well, where I can go ahead and take notes on those. And so, at any moment in time, an idea can come to you. And I want to say this about creativity, because I think sometimes there's kind of a misnomer with that. And, kind of like, if I may go ahead and share a little bit from my own life many years ago, many, many months ago, I thought of myself as not necessarily being quote unquote creative. But what I really didn't understand all of those years ago, that I think I understand a little bit better now. Of course, I'm a lifelong learner. We're always learning. But I think I understand a little bit more now at a granular level, is that, really creativity can simply be, what are the different ways that I can connect with people? Let me say that again. Creativity can simply be, what are all of the different ways that I can connect with people, whether that be students, whether it be adults, whoever it is. What are the different ways that I can connect with people? Because if you really stop and you think about it, when you're being quote unquote creative, well, what are you trying to do? What is the end result? What is the end goal? What are you trying to accomplish? What is the desired outcome? So that's one of the things that I do, is always keep a stack of post-it notes and a pen ready to jot things down. Of course, I have my devices as well. One of the things that I also to recommend, and this is another pro tip, and I'll drop this here if you're taking notes. Great place again to take notes. Of course, if you're not able to, if you're driving, operating heavy machinery, please wait until later. All right. But is to really ask yourself a series of guiding questions every morning. And I'm going to drop one of those guiding questions right now. And it simply is this: what ways can I employ today to change lives? What ways can I employ today to change lives? Or, in other words, as some people may have heard me say before in different spaces, both virtually and in person, what can I do today to make an impact on somebody's life? What can I do today to make an impact on somebody's life? And so what that does, and this kind of gets over into the life coaching space, which I'm just absolutely honored and grateful to be in as well, but really the power of questioning. And so if I want creativity, and really that's just the way that I think of it, is ways to connect with people. If I want creativity, how can I go ahead and use the power of questioning to guide my mind into that direction? And of course, I'm not a neuroscientist, don't pretend to be. And no, I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. Some of you all will get that inside joke. But I will say this, that sharing from my own life over the years in different spaces and different roles outside of leadership and different roles within leadership and at different levels, the power of questioning is absolutely phenomenal. So I want to throw out another challenge. Is that okay? Can I throw out another challenge?
Please. Challenge us up.
Okay. All right. So I want to throw out another challenge. And the challenge simply is this: is for you to wake up each day and to ask yourself this question: what can I do today to make an impact?
Mm-hmm.
And some people might ask, or they might say, well, you know what, Vernon, impact, the word impact is nebulous. It's a little bit vague. It's a little bit ambiguous. I'm not really sure what you mean by quote unquote impact. Mm. And I simply say this, and I've said this in different spaces before. What can I do to help someone else accomplish what is meaningful to them? And the late, great Zig Ziglar, phenomenal speaker, phenomenal man, he said it this way: you can get everything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want in life.
Holy cow. Interesting perspective of not only gaining what you feel like you need, but gaining that through giving to others. What a powerful, thought-provoking message to share this morning. I think that is going to give us a lot to think about. And I can only imagine the people that are going to be reaching out to us after the show, sharing their thoughts on the concept of being fulfilled, being, reaching the goals that they have in their future by simply serving others. The educators are such service people, service-focused people, that approach is so spot on, I think, for so many members of our Teach Better community. We do have a lot of comments coming in this morning saying that you are just dropping knowledge left and right. So we so appreciate it, Vernon. So good.
Well, you all are gracious. And I just want to say to everyone that's watching and listening again, whether it's live or whether it's on replay, that it is a great honor to be with you all today. And I will say this too real quick before we move on, because I know that we have some other things we'd like to discuss as well. But giving can change your life. And I think one of the mistakes that we make sometimes is we give as other people might suggest or other people might recommend. And that's fine and that's great. But I don't necessarily know that all of us collectively have really stopped to ask ourselves what we would like to give to. And so giving can change your life. It's changed mine. And what a gift to share with others about the power of what giving can do.
Vernon, we're going to get into some recommendations here in a minute, but as you've continued to share so much this morning, reflection has really been a theme, which, it's so funny that just continues to come up. I think that's so spot on. It's what we all need to hear. And for me, while I do feel like I reflect frequently, being able to teach my students how to do their own reflection is something that is not only a focus when I was working with middle schoolers, but every educator has the opportunity to do. One of the most fun activities that we used to do to encourage reflection was a small little classroom transformation, which I want to encourage you all to consider. This is very, very easy one. But, you walk into a classroom and you move all the desks and tables to the sides, you have this big open area in the center. And, you stack everything up. So it's a little bit of a hazard, but nobody touches it and it's fine. And you put a fireplace on your whatever projective device you might be using, smartboard, anything in between. And you just put it on a video like loop, right? So it's just this beautiful fire. And you engage your students' five senses. You turn the lights off, maybe you have a candle burning, and you allow students some intentional time to feel like they are not in the classroom, not in a building of so many different things going on, and to sit with themselves and do some good journaling and reflection. I think so much of fostering good reflection is making choices to engage all of our senses so that we can really dive into that moment. Could you speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so I want to go ahead and say this here real quick. Another great place to take notes, going to drop another pro tip, is really with regard to looking at instruction on a very granular level, is to really ask ourselves when we look at our lessons, right? We look at whatever it is that we've decided to do, whatever it is that we have formulated. And I'll go ahead and share this very quick story as we get into this as well about the senses. Is, one of the things that I noticed when I first got into, this is years ago when I first got into campus leadership and becoming a part of the campus leadership team at that first school that I was at the first school I was at for leadership, which is a different school than where I started at. But it was interesting because I would see lots of lesson plans that would be submitted to me because, you would have teachers submit them to you for the coming week. And some of them would just be absolutely phenomenal, folks. I'm talking about color coded, all of the different ways. I mean, whiz bang, all the bells and whistles, right? But one of the things that I always shared with, those teachers that I was a supervisor for back then, those years ago, and I share with folks even now in different spaces that I'm so privileged and honored to be in across the country, virtually and in person, simply as this: did the plan really manifest the way that we wanted it to? Because sometimes we have a great plan, but what did the execution look like? What was that learning experience like? And one of the things that I had a mentor share with me many moons ago was to really think about education in terms of this phrase, this term, learning experience. And when we have a learning experience, that really guides us into asking ourselves, what are the different modalities? What are the different approaches to instruction? And when we get into that, even deeper than that, a level beyond that, is to really ask ourselves this question: what are the different ways in which I engage the senses within my lesson? And so are students obviously able to hear? Are they able to see? Are they able to move? That's, of course, obviously, as you curriculum and instruction gurus know, that is kinesthetic learning. But are there different ways for them to engage in the learning? And I'm not saying that every single lesson has to have every single one of those different things, but I do want to go ahead and just throw out this rhetorical question. At least once per week, within a normal week. Of course, we have, testing and other things like that and assemblies and what have you. But at least once a week, are we able to really say to ourselves that, yes, I did have and I did create and I did model and did implement a learning experience that engaged multiple senses? Because I want to say this here real quick, and I know we have other things that we want to move on to, is this: as human beings, we have different ways in which we are hardwired to engage with things in our lives, and it's no different for kids.
So good. We're going to get into some recommendations here on the show, as it is Wednesday, November 17th, so stick with us. Good morning, everyone. On Wednesdays, we always take an intentional moment to give you some recommendations on how you can further your exploration into any theme, any topic that we have on the show. Although, Vernon, I have to tell you, there has been so many recommendations so far that I don't know that we need any more. Here's the intention of this. First of all, if you're tuning in right now, thank you for being here. We love that you're here with us, but you're going to have to go back and re-listen to the rest of this. We have been live for almost 40 minutes, and there has been challenges. There's been food for thought. There's been pro tips up the wazoo. You can't just stop here. The one thing I do want to make sure that we get in your hands, we get in your grasp, is the opportunity for you to explore other resources that can help you be better. Vernon and I love talking shop. We're always here as a confidant to brainstorm with you, to support you in any way. And we'll get into sharing all of Vernon's information here in just a minute. But even without us, you have so many other means to explore these topics more and continue to be better as an educator, specifically what we've been talking about today, and creativity and reflection and everything else. So, Vernon, I do want to kind of throw this at you. You are very well-connected educator. You are constantly sharing what you can and then collecting from others, striving to be better. Are there resources that are your go-to that you turn to say, yeah, when I need ideas, or when I want to reflect better, or when I want to, really get some encouragement, I turn to these resources personally?
Yeah, and I want to say a few things here real quick. I just want to go ahead and drop a few things. But before I even say that, I want to preface what I'm getting ready to share with you all. And again, so honored and so grateful to be here with you all. This is no accident. It's no coincidence. It, again, is a date with destiny for all of us collectively, is that I, many, many moons ago, made a decision. And the decision that I made was to dedicate my life to elevating others. And I really want to go ahead and ask those that are listening again, just a rhetorical question. What decision have you made for your life? What decision have you made for your life? So, getting into resources, I'm going to go ahead and do something that's maybe a little bit non-traditional within the educational space and talk about some things. And people that know me, they'll be like, that's just like Right kind of goes rogue sometimes, right?
Go rogue.
But right. But a little fun fact that people may not know is that my bachelor's degree is in economics and finance, of course, bachelor of business administration. Of course, my master's is in leadership. But I want to go ahead and share this. And again, if you're taking notes, great place to take notes. I'm going to share a few books, right, that have really made a difference in my life, not only in the world of business, but in education as well. There is a gentleman named Grant Cardone, and his last name is spelled Cardone. Real estate mogul, very wealthy man, but he's a real hoot. He's funny. But he has written several books. And so a couple of those books, I'll just go ahead and share with you all now. One that has been an absolute game changer in my life, one of the few game changers, is called 10X. 10 as in the number and X as the letter. 10X. And then another book that he has read that will absolutely change your life as an educator is called Sell or Be Sold. And I know that a lot of people would say, well, Vernon, I'm an educator, I'm not in sales. And I would say, I respectfully disagree with you, because every time that we create a learning experience, again, we teach, but really, what are we doing? We're creating a learning experience. Every time that we create a learning experience, we're selling. Really, Vernon, how is that? I'm selling the fact of what I believe, right? I'm selling the fact that learning is enjoyable, that learning is something that students should desire, that learning is something that is meaningful, that learning is something that will be significant in a student's life, that it will change their life. So really, again, going back to the late, great Zig Ziglar, he said, no matter what business you're in sales. And I will go ahead and share a third book with you all as well from the late, or not from the late, but the great John C. Maxwell, an absolute game changer in my life. And many, many moons ago, when I wrote my master's thesis, it was a significant part of my master's thesis. And the book is called The 5 Levels of Leadership. And I want to tell you guys, phenomenal book. If you've not read it, read it. If you're not much of a reader, it is on Audible. You can get the audio form of it. And I will tell you that back in those days when I was going through classical leadership training, right, many moons ago, informally and formally, both obviously at the graduate level, but then obviously too within that district that I was in at the time, the different spaces and the different things that they had for those that were aspiring leaders those years ago. I was really a level 1 leader. I really was. And I thought that that's what quote unquote leadership was about. And then when I connected with that book, I got to tell you, Ray, it changed my life. And I started really asking myself, what can I do to be a level 3, a level 4, a level 5 leader? And of course, I won't get into it about what the book is about. Of course, that would be a spoiler alert, and I don't want to do that. But I will say this, a great opportunity to go ahead and change your life. May I drop one more book recommendation?
Please. I am such a fan of the last one you just shared. So I love that our community is going to continue to challenge themselves with all these resources. And remember, Vernon, and you've said it so many times for our viewers, just because it's not an education book doesn't mean there isn't so much that we can learn from it. Being a connected educator is not just being connected to educators. It's being connected to the wider audience. So I love that, Vernon. Please share one more. I love it.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I want to say this too before I share the last one here now, because I could be sharing for days, but I know we have time constraints. But really, it is this, and I want to make this quick note right here in this space and time, is that sometimes as educators, we think that only the things that are quote unquote education related can really make a difference in what we do and a difference in our practices. But I want to go ahead and just kind of throw this sentiment out there again, just as something to think about. We are individuals, we are human beings, we live lives. But when we go into the spaces in education, whatever your spaces are, whether you're formally in a district, whether you're a consultant, whether you work for an educational vendor, I have several friends that do that, whatever your role is in education, however you impact education, you don't all of a sudden shut off who you are as an individual and a human being and then go into this quote unquote education thing. We carry that with us. And so I think sometimes one of the things that we do in education collectively is we almost distance ourselves from all of these other things that are so meaningful and so rich and can really be what I sometimes refer to as a level up in our lives. So the last thing that I will share here real quick is a book called The Four Disciplines of Execution by the son of the late, great Dr. Stephen Covey. And just want to share that the Four Disciplines of Execution. I want to go ahead and just put this out there, a little pro tip and what that book talks about. Of course, I'll let your readers and listeners get deep into that. But one of the things that I really enjoyed with that book and just kind of going through it, different times is the difference between a leading indicator and a lagging indicator. And when we talk about within the education world, quote unquote, data, what does the data say? I think sometimes what we may be looking at are lagging indicators rather than leading indicators. And I want to make one quick note about data. I was having this conversation and sharing with a group of people last week that, when we talk about data, sometimes one of the things that we just assume or we presume, right, is that all data is quantitative. But not all data is quantitative. And of course, I don't pretend to be a statistical expert. I took just enough statistics that I had to take in graduate school. And I was like, I definitely do not want to be a stats major. But but really for us to think about when we talk about quote unquote data, are we really looking at both qualitative and quantitative data? Because it's not an either or, it's an and. It's like I've shared on different spaces before with folks. We don't call it a peanut butter or jelly sandwich. We call it a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
So good. So good. For all of our friends listening in for the daily drop-in, we appreciate that you are here. I really, really, really hope you go connect with all the work that Vernon is doing by not only connecting with him on social media, but also engaging with all of the content that he continues to put out. Vernon, would you mind? I know we're going to wrap up the show here, but sharing your Twitter handle. I know it's been up on screen the whole time, but if they're listening on the podcast, I want to make sure they get it. And then also any websites, podcasts that they can engage with you on really quick as an opportunity for them to connect with you beyond this show.
Absolutely. Well, again, what an honor and what a privilege to be with you all here on the show. Again, of course, the name is Vernon Wright, Vernon. Last name is Wright, Wright. And as I tell people and have over the years, that's still the name unless somebody changed it on the birth certificate and they didn't tell me. But purposely so, which is kind of getting into branding across all social media channels, @ the Right Leader, and that's right with a W, Wright, the Right Leader. And want to go ahead and share this, a couple of different things. I'll share a hashtag that people can go ahead and look at. Hashtag the Right Speaker, right? SPEAKER, the Right Speaker. And then if they would like to connect and say, this right guy, right? Many years ago when I started in Dallas, we used to call each other, me and my colleagues, by our last names, right? So they always used to call me Wright. But they say, this Right guy, like, who is this, man? I want to go ahead and see what he's talking about, is to simply go to the website, therightspeaker.com. And when you go to therightspeaker.com, it's going to take you to a playlist. And it's a playlist of so many different podcast appearances and different things that I've been able to do, even in person as well, to really give you all just an opportunity to get deeper into the work that I have done over time. And I want to say that a quick shout out to him. He is out there really to two people, well, really 3 people, is the first video. When you go there to that playlist, the first video will be the oh so awesome, phenomenal George Couros. shout out to him. I had a great opportunity to be on his show and to engage in dialogue with him. Great guy. Another video that you all are going to see on there is with my two friends, Bree and Laney from Lemonade Learning. They're on there as well. I had a great opportunity to share with them. And of course, the man simply known as the Captain, Dave Burgess. And that's back from when I had an online leadership show. So there's some other things on there as well. So just encourage your listeners to go out there, engage with it. And I will say this, if it changes one educator's life, I've done my job.
So good. Vernon, thank you for waking up bright and early to join the Daily Drop-In Morning Show with the Teach Better team. It's so fun to be able to talk shop with you. I want to encourage everybody to go connect with all that Vernon is doing. As you all know, we are not only here to be a brainstorm partner with you, but also continue to support all of the Teach Better network in being a connected educator by connecting with new people, expanding our bubbles and perspectives, and hopefully getting a little bit of positivity and food for thought as we head into the best Wednesday ever. Guys, it is Wednesday, November 17th. I got a good feeling about this one. I hope you have an absolutely beautiful rest of your day. For everybody here, please enjoy your last few sips of coffee. And you please let us know if you need anything. Don't forget, later today, we will obviously be live again for Brain Break to take a little bit of a step away from education and then some shenanigans later this afternoon. Vernon, thank you again for being with us. And I hope that all of you have just an absolutely wonderful day. So see you later, friends.